So, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of Weird Holocaust Back in the Game. This one's been named by a listener.
Yes.
Apsilas/Sulispa.
Our first listener competition, no less.
Yeah, it's basically called Only Tacocat is Happy.
Oh, why is only Tacocat happy, Nathan?
Because Tacocat is a palindrome, so it is the same backwards as it is forwards.
I learned that from The Simpsons when I was young.
I learnt it from Monty Python, because there was a whole joke about Bolton is a palindrome. And he went, no, it's not. That's not Lob. It was very funny, and I learnt all about palindromes from that. But basically, Apsilas/Sulispa, so Sulispa on Twitter had messaged us. We mentioned him, but I said Apsilas.
Yep.
And he pointed out that Apsilas is a singer,
yep,
and he is Sulispa. And I explained how you'd ruined it by installing the Chinese TweetDeck, which reads everything from right to left. And
then ruined Crufts.
And then you poisoned a load of dogs at Crufts as well. And then you disguised
How
yourself.
else am I going to beat the goose?
You disguised yourself as an old man and beat a dog up outside and had your photo taken. And you made sure you had your photo. I don't know if you saw that photo of that man.
Which man?
There was a man basically beating his dog, assuming for losing in the car park.
I didn't see a man. There was no man. There never was, right?
All right, okay. But yeah, so let's crack on with this week's show. Now I've got to play the piece of music here, which I'll keep talking about playing a piece of music while finding a piece of music. That's what I was doing actually when you said, shall we crack on? And I put my thing down. So yeah, this is the theme for this week.
Hello out there, we're on the air, and Bass is here tonight. He talks to Duff about lots of stuff, and the rum and cokes are iced. The song fills flow, mocked his videos, and the fans must be insane. We are the Holocaust, let's hear bouncy talking games.
Let's hear bouncy talking games. Let's hear bouncy talking games. The best podcast you can name is about bouncy talking games.
11th episode. When Java's crashed and so has Flash, and you're fast losing your mind. When you're out of luck, then you just pick up your mobile device. Because this week, if you please, we will put you in the frame about the latest apps. Now let's hear bouncy talking games.
Let's hear bouncy talking games. Let's hear bouncy talking games. The best podcast you can name is about bouncy talking games.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
I like that.
Apparently that's called The Good Old Hockey Game, the original song. Do you know the song?
Yeah. The hockey song by Stomping Tom O'Connor.
Is it?
Yeah.
Dalek did that especially for you.
I know, I feel honoured. Thank you, Dalek.
So as you may have guessed from that song, we're talking a lot about mobile games this week, because you've been travelling.
I have.
Like a circus man that you are.
Wow.
And I haven't had much time in the house, because I've been very busy as well. So we've mostly been playing mobile stuff. I think that's a fair assumption.
Yes.
Fair encapsulation
Yes.
of our gaming setup. So what have you been playing mobile gaming this week?
Well, stupidly, I decided to completely restart my Springfield in Tapped Out again.
Right.
While I was away. It was the stupidest decision I've probably ever made in a game, just because I've played for quite a length of time now. I've accumulated so much stuff. Trying to start that all again and getting a layout that I like is nigh on impossible. I can never work for the local planning department.
So
I'd be terrible at it.
Devon wasn't exciting enough. You then go, oh, fuck you, Devon. I'm going to
rebuild a fictional town.
Rather than look at your lovely seascapes
I
that
looked at those
inspire
too.
people. I thought you could do both at the same time, really, couldn't
exactly.
you?
That's the beauty of mobile gaming.
Nicely on theme.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I've done this before. The last time I redesigned my town, I actually, and this is quite bad, I created a spreadsheet for all the associated buildings. So it's all the houses that had people.
Okay.
Then it was any businesses that would seem appropriate on the street with King Toots and Moe's. So any others that have been seen around
I like the way
there.
we both have the same Moe's, King Toots.
Well, that is established canon.
Exactly, yeah.
And there has been a lot of jokes made about where are things in relation to
Other
others.
things.
Now, the general consensus is one reality, which is there was a PC Simpsons experience.
Okay.
and this would go back to late 90s, I believe.
Okay.
And it had a 3D version of the town at that point. Now, up until then, the comics, well, there were comics, but the cartoon itself hadn't really gone into too much detail. It always shied away because we don't even know where Springfield is.
Yeah,
that's always
and a lot of building settings, are shown almost in isolation.
Yeah.
So Pimento Grove, Madame Chow's, things like that.
And so I kind of looked at that and thought, right, well, that should be like this. But the annoying part is sometimes the orientation of the buildings is wrong because you can only rotate a 90-degree axis, but only on two.
You can only face two directions.
Yeah. And that kind of ruins me a little bit because sometimes I think that building shouldn't be there. It should be slightly off to the side or whatever. But it did. I got proper nerdy about it. And I was doing it. And my girlfriend's little boy said, "Oh, can I do some of your town?" And I kind of, through gritted teeth, went, "Why would you want to do some of my town?" But
Get out of my town!
Slightly more aggressive than is necessary when talking to a then 10-year-old. And he was like, "Well, I just thought I'd have a go. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you some pieces." And I fenced off an area. And I put all the pieces in the area. And I said, "You can play around in there." And it was
fenced off. Look at the children's area. You must at least be this tall to enter.
It was some car park, some parking meters, and some skips. And I said, basically, you're creating the car park for what will become the shopping centre.
Yeah.
And so the one in my town was part designed by him. I had to move some stuff around because it was terribly laid
Such
out.
as all of it.
Well, no, it just the car parking spaces were like a zigzag pattern. Instead of just formatted. Needs to be correct,
Yeah, that's
so
very
we had words about it. And he didn't ask to do it again. But it does require a certain amount of investment of time well, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Very much so. I've probably lost some brownie points just by sitting there this week realigning trees while I was, "What do you want to watch?" "I don't mind, I'm busy." So, it's not going to go well, but thankfully they have improved one element since your spreadsheet days.
Okay.
You can now subdivide your store. I can't think of the proper inventory, thank you. By which buildings are attached to people. Basically, you can click on the people and it will show the person and the building they're associated with.
Right.
So one of the things I did was just shove all the buildings in one corner to get all the people back in my town to at least walk around, do a few jobs, generate some money, because I've had to spend some to fill gaps in.
Yeah.
But it was quite a big undertaking, and that's dominated a lot of my gaming week. But I did also reopen Star Wars Angry Birds for the first time in a very long time.
Well, we talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it on the show so much.
We talked about the Transformers one on an early episode because I think you'd been playing it and I had shied away because I found all the previous Angry Birds games to be a little bit the same, just with like a Star Wars skin or whatever. But we hadn't really talked about Star Wars Angry Birds in any great depth. So I went back to it.
And it's a very good game.
It is, and I'd forgotten how easy it is to pick it up and put it down. It's so simplistically designed. Yet you could play for 5 minutes or, I suppose, theoretically 5 hours. You'd probably get bored of it after 5 hours. It's probably a bit excessive. But you can have literally quick blasts or longer sessions and power through some levels.
What was it? I mean, I bought this on the Xbox One. I've got it on tablet, so I can play it whenever I wanted. But I like the idea of the kids being able to play that, to have it as a console game. Because when I first got the Xbox One, there weren't an awful lot of family-friendly games. So that was one that was almost a safe bet, because no matter what, everybody would be able to play it. And it's probably been played, obviously Plants vs Zombies, which is the greatest game of the Xbox One. That was decided this week on Twitter. Yeah. There was a lot of people discussing it. It was quite interesting. And again, it was Sully Spa / Outsiders who pointed out that a lot of people who haven't played it are people who own a PS4. And they had an opportunity to get it for free and still never did. But then, what was hilarious is a lot of people who regularly play together individually went, "Yeah, I've got it," but nobody else has. What was very clear there is Xbox owners are quite used to having a community feel, whereas PS4 owners wait for someone to say, "Anyone got Destiny?" And then they go, "Actually, I have got Destiny," before they'll play a game.
Nobody says anything.
So that was quite hilarious. I think there was Vimesy, Clarkey, Pumba, and someone else as well. And all basically go, yeah, I've got it. Which is good because it is a very good game. But it is also pretty much, it's an investment per round. You can't just jump in, jump out like you can with Angry Birds. So it was one you could just pass the control around and just have a go. Very often it would get to the point where, no, that wasn't a proper go because I missed everything. That doesn't count.
That sort of just playground mentality comes back into it.
And that's fine. I like that. So it is very good. The second one's better. which is surprising.
I did download it, but I haven't started it because I want to finish the first
Yeah,
one.
it has a lot of kind of in-app purchase options, but none of them are relevant really to your enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
They're just there to monetize what was clearly an expensive game to produce because they put a lot of effort in.
Yeah.
And what's also cool, and I can't get them out because they're behind me, they did some Angry Birds Star Wars Jenga sets. You might have seen them in Toys R Us.
I think I saw them advertised on like Amazon.
Yeah. So they started off, the very first one I think they ever did was the Death Star, the
Yep.
pig Death Star. And the idea was you'd basically have a pull back and go X-Wing, kind of fire it and try and knock the Death Star over. And that then launched a whole load of actually flinging the birds at constructs. So the idea is you'd build it and then you just flick through and see what you can knock off. With the second one, they did a thing called telepods.
Right.
Where, I don't know if I've got one of those next to me, because I usually do. No, I've got a few of them. There's a little stand like that.
Yep.
You put it over the camera on your device.
Okay.
And then you put the little rubber bird on top there.
Yep.
That's an actual bird, not a lady of the night that you inflate. And what it does, it reads the little QR code and then gives you that character in that level. So
Right,
you'll know that
okay.
you'll have levels in the main one where you'll have Luke. But you think, I could have done that so much quicker if I had Chewbacca.
Yep.
Whatever. You can actually do that. You just
So it's a
manipulate
similar
the game.
principle to the Disney Infinity games.
Exactly. It's like that, only what it does is it takes away you having to then buy that character. Because the big monetization thing was, this level would be easier if you had that character. You can have that character if you use some of your premium currency.
Yeah.
What this does, it said, well, you bought the toys, you just have that character.
Yeah.
And then it kind of has a
So
timer.
they've still got their money out of you.
Yeah, so you can't use it again straight away, but you can use it again. That's quite a nice,
That's a good
nice little
idea.
feature, and it's
Because it makes a small rubber toy slightly more valuable than it might otherwise be.
yeah, and you can buy those just as a little set, like just a figure and thing.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
about
I've seen those in
£3.
the shops. So.
And for £3, I think the in-app purchase is £1.49 for a similar thing. So you've got something physical or something you don't own at all. And I like the idea of a physical one. So for Christmas, I bought my son 3 sets because I just thought, well, he's now got a good range of figures.
Yeah.
Plus, we've got a fuck ton of Jenga Angry Birds to just play with.
Yeah.
And they're doing, in Angry Birds Transformers, they're doing the telepods as well. They've done them for Angry Birds Go, which was the racing one, and Angry Birds Stella. They did sets as well. So if you've got kids and you're listening, and you just want to shut the hell up because stop asking you to buy in-game stuff, next time at Toy Shop, buy one of them.
Is Angry Birds Stella based on that terrible comedy on Sky One?
No.
Thank God for that.
Although, it's borderline.
You get to
Angry
go around
Birds-
knocking down whales.
Angry Birds Stella is Angry Birds for girls, in inverted
Right.
commas. I don't like things like that.
So they've just
does
made
make
it a
me gross.
bit more pink.
So you've got a pink bird called
They've
Stella.
been really kind of condescending.
It's
Just a bit more pink
Well-
and flowery.
That said, they are strong, independent birds.
Right.
They don't need the boys to come and rescue them, so that's a good thing. I mean, it wasn't like that's there. They do have individual powers, but it is. I mean, it's a bit like the argument about this all-female Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Now, I had no issue with that at all. I loved The Heat with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock.
See, I hate Melissa McCarthy.
but
I don't have an issue with an all-female Ghostbusters, I just hate her.
I loved that film. I liked Bridesmaids,
I hated
but
it.
not as a comedy.
I
I thought it was quite because I like Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, I like
Anyway.
Kristen Wiig.
Particularly the and what's that Bridesmaids where she had a go? She called a customer a cunt in a shop. I don't know if that was Bridesmaids, but there was something where she did that, and it just from that point on, anything I see her is brilliant. So the all-female Ghost was no issue, but then this week we found out there's going to be an all-male one headed by Channing Tatum, which just seemed like I don't know whether it was people had complained about it being an all-female one. Going, okay, well the women can have that one, the boys can have this one.
Yeah.
Because I think more women would be interested with Channing Tatum as a Ghostbuster. The Ghostbusters weren't attractive beasts.
Yeah.
Like, it should be, if they're going to do an all-male Ghostbusters, it should be Jonah Hill, obviously, being, like,
Ray.
Slimer. You know...
You
Jesse
could theoretically
Eisenberg.
have the cast
Michael
of This Is the
Cera.
End.
Yeah, Michael Cera could be a perfect Egon.
Right.
I mean, just those like who are already in that group, like you said, like the people who are in This Is the End, the people from Superbad, the people from Zombieland, that kind of thing would translate well. But it doesn't have to be an all-male thing. It's almost like they've gone to this franchise thing where there was talk. Ghostbusters 3 was always going to be.
Yeah.
They'd franchised it out. So the old
So it
Ghostbusters
could be-
characters could. So it could be that they'll be in New York with the female one, and maybe Los Angeles would be the male one. That could work, and I could see that. But we're also living in a time where 22 Jump Street versus Men in Black is going to happen, which I'm quite excited about, because the Jump Street films are brilliant, the Men in Black films are brilliant, and it's a weird universe, but they're both in New York.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why they can't cross over. I kind of wish that the Ghostbusters thing had been that.
Yeah.
Like, let's have the Ghostbusters coincide with, because that's still New York. So you don't need to have an all-male cast. You could just have Channing Tatum from Jump Street in that role. But yes, I digress. Angry Birds Stella is a good game, but unfortunately it is that.
Don't like us to get wandering off topic on
It's
this
like
show.
Lego Friends or Toys for Girls sections. I don't like it. I don't like any toy that tells you who it's for.
Right.
Like, if it's a doll and it's in bright pink clothes and it's in a big pink box, that should be enough for you to make a decision whether that's right for your girl or your son. Your daughter or your son. It shouldn't then also be put into a section that says ideal for her. That's not necessary. Like,
I don't know if you remember, it was a few months ago. It's her name escapes me. It's the priest on Gogglebox, and she's on Twitter, and she tweeted a picture. Basically, it was whatever it was, a vacuum cleaner. And it's like ideal for the busy woman on the go. And she basically replied going at whoever it was at manufacturer. Does this mean my husband can't use it? It's kind of like, that's very true. And I'm sure I'll get some jip off Emma now, because I very rarely use the Hoover. I might just move it from one corner to the other to make it look like I've done something.
admitting it now doesn't make it okay.
No, it's fine. But, she's kind of right. It's like, why does it have to say the busy woman on the go?
Yeah, there are some...
What?
I was in Poundland the other day. I'm just now finding the photo. And I did tweet this out at the time, but weirdly not many people responded, which suggests that most of my followers are clearly sexist.
This makes for great podcasting, you scrolling through the photos on your phone.
I'm describing
It's amazing nobody's thought of doing this before.
I know, it's almost like it should have been done on Google Hangouts, so you could watch me idly looking at my phone and barely take an interest in my listenership.
Yeah. Shall I swing the microphone round?
I wouldn't.
Like a 1970s club singer.
So we're just... I can't even find the photo now, which is a shame.
You have to imagine I'm swinging the microphone.
Basically, I was in Poundland and they had this really awesome
£1
toy, which
toy.
was an old lady in a coffin.
The setup to this is amazing.
Yeah, so, yeah, I really need to find the photo because it's so unbelievable.
I think the photo might actually ruin it for me now.
No, it won't. It really won't. It can't.
Poundland toy, lady in a coffin.
Yeah.
I mean, the photo is going to have to be pretty spectacular to top that description.
You get an old woman in a coffin, or you can have a younger woman in a coffin, and what that basically translates to is, I see why, because, okay, that's very bizarre. My photos have separated into where they were taken.
Right, so...
Very handy.
What we've learned on this episode of Back in the Game, where we've talked about mobile gaming and gaming on the go, is you can't work your phone.
I really can't. Do you know what? It's an interesting thing. Anybody who knows me well knows I don't really use mobile phones. I haven't had a mobile phone of my own for a long time.
It's true.
And when I have had one, generally it's just sat in a drawer and not turned on because I've
This is
forgotten
also
my own
true.
one. So having one that's of quality and being given his iPhone has certainly got quality to it.
Other mobile phones are available.
They certainly are. Here it is. So here we go. Deadstone Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Each
I
character
think
has
we've
their
padded
own
that out
headstone.
really well, by the way.
Bury your character on the website. So you get
Right.
Auntie Flo. So it's
Okay.
a little old lady in a
Yeah.
coffin. And then you basically go to the website and put the code in, and you can add her grave to your virtual graveyard.
Okay.
Now, it's not just old people. It's young people as well, like celebrities who've died in bitter scenarios.
James Dean.
Yeah, probably.
Princess Diana?
Like a fake... No, because she didn't die. She was murdered. So
She's still dead.
yeah, well, that's not the same as dying, is it? That's being killed.
That's still
Didn't
dead.
just go, ugh. She
I
was
think
like,
she What
what are those? What are those?
What's that gear stick doing out
What are
there?
those motorbikes doing there with royal family markings on the side? Hang on a minute.
Looks like
Is
my
that-
mother-in-law.
Is that Prince Philip and my mother-in-law just waving a flashlight at the driver? But anyway, so that was appalling. So I got my phone out to take a photo of these old people that you could just buy as a toy, just a dead
In
person in a
Poundland.
coffin. And they're not articulate. They're just literally
In a
You're
coffin.
supposed to just put it in a coffin and display it.
That's why it's in Poundland, I should imagine.
But next to it was something more obsessed. The Little Princess cleaning set.
Right.
Now, not just a cleaning set, but what everybody's little princess wants to do. Like,
Yeah.
I find once you're a member of the royal family, the first thing they teach you is how to clean your own shit up.
It's true.
So instead, you've got a dustbin and brush, and then 2 handles, so you can have a yard broom and a soft brush.
Oh.
So properly going in for the
Yeah.
brushes option. But that's in the Little Princess. So there were shoes and tiaras and a phone, all normal.
Yeah.
And then a cleaning set. And I spoke to a friend of mine who's a big feminist, and she said, well, sometimes it's best to be devil's advocate. I mean, Cinderella was a cleaner before she was a princess. I mean, that's not an excuse.
That's social mobility.
Just obscene. But yes, that was another example of terrible things marketed at a very sexual relation. But yeah, so Angry Birds Stella is a good game, but it's unfortunately too...
Wow, we got off something there. Even my house done, that was off topic.
It's justification for my anger at Stella.
Angry Birds.
Like I said, it's a good game. It just didn't need to be for girls.
Yeah.
It could have just been stood on its own, and they could have had that mixed in. Or introduce those characters into the main.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, I think the pink one's the only one in the main game that's female.
That I can think of.
Because Princess Leia was the pink one, so I guess.
I didn't really play the original one very much. The Star Wars one, obviously, the Star Wars hook and the intrigue of Angry Birds. I think it was free. It was like the promoted app at one point. Promoted this week, so I got it free. And then the same happened with the second one.
Yeah.
So I've got that to play when I'm ready. But I'd kind of like to finish the first one. I feel like I should finish the story because it's Star Wars, even though I kind of know where it's going to go.
Well, the other issue is you've got the fact they keep adding levels to it. So you'll probably get to a point where you'll finish it and then they'll add another 12 levels. And you're like, oh. Because I've done that where I've gone back to a game like Angry Birds Rio.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. I went back the other week and they've added 100
Angry Birds
stages.
Sao Paulo as well.
The proper 100 stages that I'd never done. I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to finish this now. It's like, I only went back to just 3-star a couple of missions and now I've got loads I haven't even started. But the Angry Birds series offers incredible value for what is... Even if you did the paid version, because the HD ones were paid and then there was the free versions, the HD ones were no more than $150. And they're still updating Seasons and Rio, which are at least 4 or 5 years old. Rio the film was in fact a sequel since then.
A sequel since then, yeah.
So the fact they still support those is incredible. Like people can moan it for whatever they want about saying, "Oh, well, they just bring out the same thing all the time," but they're still supporting their old stuff.
Yeah.
There aren't that many games that come out that get 5 years support and not just support, but new levels and new content when they really don't have to. Nobody's asking for it. They're not going, "Hey, I bought the game 6 years ago and I demand an extra level," but they're going, "Here's some more levels for the game."
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So Rovio really do earn a certain amount of respect from me for that, because yes, they might have just dragged the franchise out, but
you feel differently about in-app purchases if they are still supporting the game themselves. They're not just going, here's a game, if you want to do more, give us your money. They're actually making a conscious effort to keep it ticking over, to make it worth you going back, to make it worth you investing in these things.
And a lot of the stuff in the earlier games, the in-app purchase stuff, wasn't requirement at all. It was, if you are struggling to find the hidden items that would unlock this level, you can just pay for it. Which is, as we've talked about before, there are a lot of people that don't have the time to invest in a game.
Or the patience.
Yeah, so that's an optional thing. But yeah, it's never a case of like games like Candy Crush Saga where it gets you addicted and then goes, well, if you want to continue playing, you've got to now start paying or bother all your friends on Facebook. Or, you never really get that with Angry Birds. And like I said, there are reasons to dislike the franchise, but being freemium is not one of them at all. So no, I shall look forward to hearing how you get on with that, because it is, like I say, it's a very, very well made franchise game. And
I'd kind of forgotten how frustrating it can be, but also kind of how fun it can be with it, because it is one of those games where, although it is frustrating, it is still a fun challenge. Because some gaming challenges can get to the point where they're no longer fun; they're just frustrating. And I think you kind of had it with Super Mario as part of your 4 in February.
Certainly.
You were doing it because it was part of a wider challenge that you wanted to do, rather than wanting to progress the game. Because although it was frustrating, you're enjoying trying to solve that puzzle or conquer that level.
Playing Rayman Legends this week, I mean, it's not on the running order because I haven't played a huge amount of it, but I enjoyed every minute of that because it's how platformer should be nowadays. And what it reminded me was that Super Mario Brothers U is just a 20-year-old game. It looks nice.
Yeah,
it's not a new game. It doesn't play like a new game. It's like, oh well, let's give Mario a new outfit again. That's our innovation.
Yeah,
the innovation should be naturally flowing environments or some different. Rayman Legends in one game has more variation in play style and effort than Mario had in the entire thing. So yeah, I adore it. I mean, it just reminds me, and I think that may be why I'm so down on Super Mario U, because it's just not as progressive. So
as you'd hoped,
yeah, and it's like I say, you need either something that's enjoyable to make you put up with something else, or not. So like the frustration in Rayman is it can be bloody difficult, but it's always fun. So it's fine. But yeah, so we'll go through on there. I've played a related birdie-related game, Sleepy Wings.
Oh yeah.
On iPhone. I was told this is the most addictive thing ever. You won't be
the
able to
most
put it down.
addictive thing since the last addictive thing.
Yes, well, everybody gets compared to Flappy Bird as well, but it's basically just a match 3 puzzler.
Right.
But it's one, instead of having to line them up, you kind of drag your finger through as many as possible. So imagine Boggle.
Okay.
But instead of making words, you just join up lines of coloured birds and achieve different goals. Like some of them you have to connect them to a birdhouse or...
So it's addictive in the same way, as you said, like Candy Crush Saga.
Not at all addictive.
No.
I played it through.
So the theory is it's addictive as Candy Crush Saga, but in reality it's not.
What I'm thinking is it might be addictive to people who are prone to addiction for those kind of games. Like if you like that kind of game, maybe it'll be for you.
Right.
But I don't like Candy Crush Saga because I like Bejeweled. I like the challenge to be a challenge, not pump money into this thing.
See, I've got an original Game Boy that works with Tetris.
Yeah.
So all my needs are covered should I require them.
This is it. I mean, as I've said before, I've famously got a Game Boy with Tetris glued into it because there's no point. I've got 3 Game Boys, one of them, I'm not going to take Tetris out of it, ever. The downside is one day, and somebody pointed this out to me on Twitter a few months ago, that what happens if I need to blow in the cartridge? I was like, well, hopefully the seal means that's never going to happen, but I'm sure I could crack some super glue. Yeah. Well, I'm quite a tough man. Ripped. But yeah, I don't know, I gave it an hour thinking that would be enough. Just did nothing for me at all. It was cute and it was bright and it was colourful and it did all the things that those sort of games do to draw you in. But no.
So theoretically it has that same appeal to the casual crowd.
I think if you're looking for a casual puzzler, it's right up your street. But I've also this week, thanks to you very kindly gifting me a Starbucks voucher code, been playing Valiant Hearts iOS. Now, obviously, I played through this in 4 and Feb, so I haven't really played it properly because there's no need to.
Yeah.
I've only recently finished the game. But I loaded it up using the iPhone because I thought it might be a bit too much for the iPad 2.
Yep.
Apparently, it does run well on the iPad 2. My iPad's so chunked up at the moment, it's not running very well at all. I mean, even if I try and turn it on, that took a couple of seconds to load up. So I put it on the iPhone, and the first thing I noticed was a thing called Dogs of War. I was like, oh, that's not in the console version. It's basically a comic book that... I better turn that sound off. That's where we had playing Daleks music to ourselves earlier. So it's basically a comic book that tells the story of some of the dogs that fought on the front lines of World War I. It's quite nice. It's got a soundtrack to it that kind of swipes through. Yeah, that's quite a nice little extra.
And that was free?
It was free, and it's probably free. Is it a weekly one they do?
I have a feeling they change it every week, but I don't know what the changeover day is.
That's quite, because that's not a cheap game.
No.
I think it's about $4.99.
Well, we talked about the console version because you played it for in fact.
Yeah.
And what was that, £12 I think when I looked on the Xbox store. And so to pick it up for free like that was, I thought, oh, hello.
Yeah.
So hopefully other people saw the little tweet I put out on the We Are the LOL, of course, with an R instead of the R. Little tweet I put out and picked up a copy for themselves because obviously you were a big fan of the game and what it brought to the table. So I thought that was brilliant to see a game of that esteem, really, because it has received some good ratings and some good feedback and good reviews. So just to have a game like that for free, regardless of what you think about Starbucks,
No, well,
it's still a free game.
kudos to Ubisoft for putting it out there as well.
Exactly, because
they
it could have
didn't
just been any old shite.
and very often they are. But yeah, I've had generally whenever I've tried anything on the Starbucks thing, it's always been some title that's very, very cheap or needed promotion.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a game that's neither cheap nor needs promotion. So I was genuinely surprised when you told me.
I
think I did respond back almost immediately going, "Please grab me a code," because it's like, even though I've bought the game, I've given them my money, so I'm not taking it away. And I guess there must be some reparation from Starbucks for the codes, because as far as I remember it, there's usually just a stack of cards and you just take a couple while you're there. So it's not like it's associated with any particular purchase. I don't think it drives sales, so they can't really say, "Oh, well." So I guess there must be some flat rate. They say, "Well, if you want us to be," they're not. Maybe Ubisoft pays Starbucks. I don't know. I don't know how it works. It could just be a thing to get them up the charts, maybe. Like, rather than just make it free for everybody, make it free in a specific retailer. It might be cheaper and I don't know. Anyway,
speaking of charts,
what
moves us on nicely to our next bit? Or have you got other games
does.
you're going to sneak in here?
No, it does.
Have you gone against the grain?
It was a nice segue that I've ruined. But charts.
Yeah, Dying Light has gone to the top of the sales chart, the physical sales.
Yeah.
Which, if people want to find out what's in the sales chart, then they can find that out from any number of places. That's not what surprised me about this. It's that Dying Light was out as a digital download a month ago, maybe more now.
Yeah.
But the physical copy is still obviously sold well. It's overtaken, I suppose, their stalwarts like FIFA and Theft Auto. So they've also been out a while, so not maybe a surprise to see them drop, but maybe a surprise to see Dying Light jump ahead, as I said, because it's been out already digitally. So it kind of caught my eye because of that element, that physical copies still sell very well.
It's interesting, because I was looking at the chart, and in the chart it kind of suggests... Now, I don't know how much you know about sales in the UK for games.
Probably not as much as you do.
Well, actually, that's quite tricky, because you have to be part of some very specific groups to be able to get that data.
So you have to be a Freemason.
Well, I think you have to be part of UKI, which is the trade body for...
Is that the one
games
Nigel
in the UK.
Farage heads up?
No, that's UKIP.
Oh.
That's the one where all the races have a sleep in the back benches of Commons after being paid to be there.
It's easy.
It is. But basically, you can get to number one in the UK games charts selling 5,000 units.
Okay.
It's not a lot.
That's less than I'd expected you to say, to be fair.
If you're on a low week, like there are games that sell 1 million units over a week. Well, not necessarily in the UK, but in Europe they would sell that. And you'd expect that on a FIFA launch or a Call of Duty launch. But something like the week that Dying Light came out, there wasn't really anything else out. Okay. So for it to get to number one, the second and third, a Grand Theft Auto 5, which came out last November, I believe, on Xbox One, so that would have pushed that up, and FIFA was September.
Yep.
So it's beating games that have been out for 6 months.
And then after that, it's Call of Duty. So that's your top four.
I'm looking for it, and then Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Well, Dragon Ball Xenoverse is a very niche title, but that made it to number 5, above Minecraft, Xbox, and PlayStation. So it is a case of sometimes these things, it's very good it gets to number one, but anything that's in the top 10 is selling well.
So my eyes have deceived me.
Well, then you've also got to look at why Dying Light has sold well. Because there is that argument of, is it because people don't want the digital version? Did they wait?
Possibly, because that leads us down the whole digital downloads path of internet speeds and storage space, and some people just like a physical copy. I'm like it with certain albums. I like to hold a physical item in my hand.
This is the thing. So then you've also got what Warner Brothers did, which wasn't the sensiblest of options. So the game, basically, there was a problem with the discs. Now nobody knows exactly what this is other than Warner Brothers, but it could be that they just printed them wrong. It could be that they were damaged. It could be that they
said Dead Island on them.
Previously, there have been things where I think it was Two Worlds 2 was in massive shortage because a couple of the crates got washed off the ship while they were coming from China, and so there were a few that were available, but the majority of them were just completely water damaged, so you couldn't use it. With Dying Light, they said, we're sorry for the delay for the physical copy. You can buy it digitally, but if you wait, we'll give you the season pass content for free. Plus the Amazon exclusive content.
I think we mentioned this maybe a couple of weeks ago.
There was a lot of content that they then said, all stuff that was retailer specific, which would have pissed off any retailer that had paid for that content to be exclusive. So I imagine it would have been refunded. But you got all that, plus the season pass, plus everything else, which you had to buy if you had the digital version.
Yeah.
Or you paid the premium to have it included. So a lot of people probably waited because they thought, well, hang on, I'm buying the game for 40 quid, which is already cheap anyway, especially compared to the digital version. Plus I'm getting all the 12 quid's worth of extra content. It's certainly a good way to sell a game. But it's sad that you have to offer that extra value to push sales.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, this is the second, maybe third week it's been.
Maybe that content could have been in the game in the first place. And the game
Well,
could have come out at launch would have been nicer.
That's the, I suppose, more common issue that people seem to have now. Are things already in there?
Yeah.
You just need a code to unlock that segment of the disc.
But then you've got the fact that Dying Light sold out in a lot of places. Now, this suggests to me that a lot of retailers, as we probably did, expected most people to not bother.
Yeah.
If they wanted it, they've got it by now. Amazon sold out completely. To the point that if I look now, I know I looked earlier today because a customer was asking me about prices on it, and I said a lot of places selling it for a lot. PS4 version, $52.99. Xbox One version, $59.99.
Not cheap.
No, because it's in such short supply that
They
now
can't
the
afford
retailers
to do
have
it.
bumped up because it's not.
You see, I wonder as well with Dying Light, maybe it's just what I saw of it. I thought they marketed it, apart from the negative stuff with the disc, issue the disc, but the actual proper marketing campaigns kind of gave it that almost I Am Legend type vibe.
Yeah.
Where basically you're surviving the zombie horde running around with this kind of part Mirror's Edge, part Assassin's Creed parkour element.
Yeah.
Obviously the Dead Island elements are strong, but then given it's the same studio, that's not surprising.
No.
So I thought they pitched it quite well, and I think for a lot of people that kind of idea is appealing. Now some of the reviews are average, middling, sort of set. You're looking at 7s, 8s.
Better than Dead Island got.
Well,
which
yes,
is good.
yeah. Basically, it's Dead Island Mark II. It's like a step on. But I thought the way they pitched it would have, or it certainly interested me. It's one of the first games I've really seen on the Xbox One or next gen exclusive, should we call it, that's really captured my attention in a big way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the other stuff I was interested in is on 360 as well, like Destiny, Tomb Raider, stuff we've talked about. So I don't know whether that is something that plays into it.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's not a bad game. It just deserved to be number one. It's just it was a very weird one to mix through. But also, I mean, looking at this, is this the monthly chart here for the whole? It's the whole month one, isn't it? If I believe sales in February. I can't remember now.
Just double check which chart we have open.
Maybe. Either way, if it's monthly, it sold very well to beat off other events. But then Zombie Army Trilogy's at number 8, and that's only been out since Tuesday. So that's done really well. If that's been out like 4 days less than Dying Light, and he's already number 8 in the chart. And that's a budget spin-off of the Sniper Elite series, so it's quite a niche game again in itself. But it's, like I say, it is nice to see any game selling well. I was reading an interview the other day with a independent retailer, because I read it quite a lot. There's a thing on MCV, which is, and I can't remember what it's called. It's like Trade Counter or something. But they talk to independent retailers and they say, what's your big seller? How are your consoles selling? And everybody is saying, consoles selling well, games selling well. The big thing is digital codes. And there's a distribution thing called DLC Soft, which is a subsidiary of Centresoft, who's a big distributor for the UK. And they basically provide the facility to sell PlayStation games, Wii games as well, Wii U games, direct as a code. And that's becoming one of the biggest sellers in independent retailers because there's no stock on hand.
Yeah.
You've basically got a card that represents a product, but the only time you handle it is when you action the purchase from their server to your thing. So you don't pay anything in advance, but you've got the sale.
Yeah.
The downside is the markup isn't very good because, of course, they're set by whatever price is on the console. So you can't really say, well, that's 20 quid for that $9.99 game. And some retailers do bemoan the fact that the margin is not very good. But going in the door, it's interesting to see how many indies now are going the same route as game and being able to do so. Because that is where the Battlefield will be. 5 years' time, the retailer will not have physical products. They'll have retro product, they'll have trade consoles and games, but it's just too expensive to manufacture a small title. Like we were talking earlier about this, the special editions games thing, where a company is basically doing limited editions of Hotline Miami 1 and 2. Actually, it's not right there in front of us, Gamers Edition. And also doing a special edition of Papers, Please.
Yep.
And it's kind of crowdfunded, so if enough people buy it, then they'll get it made. And it gives you a physical boxed edition of very good indie games that are only like £7-8 to buy.
Yeah.
But you could pay £50 to have a big physical edition. And
we looked at the Hotline Miami one, and it is basically the equivalent of a special edition of a lot of Xbox games.
It's very nice. It comes with C90, which is the best thing in the world.
And you've got the graffiti stencils and a load of other stuff. So,
and the Papers, Please comes with rubber stamps, which I do like. I do like a rubber stamp, Rob.
You do like a rubber stamp?
I volunteered for the library at school just to get those rubber stamps. It's not just a rubber stamp, but the one where actually spins around. I loved that job. That was my favourite thing I ever did at school. Other than, well, there was a few things I did I liked, but officially helping the school.
But gentleman never tells.
That was the big thing I really liked, was just having the power of the stamper in the library. But this is it. Like, digital doesn't necessarily mean you don't get anything for your money, and the sales charts now take into account. Or some of the sales charts take into account digital sales as well, which is good because it does with music and it should with games because it is now a big market.
For sure.
I had a customer today who's recently paid £102, I think it was, for the Ultimate Edition of Hardline on his console so he could preload it, and he was willing to pay £60 more than the retail version to have the DLC as well and have it preloaded. And it was like, oh, there is a market for it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a small rural town. It's not the middle of Cambridge city centre. This is somewhere where people don't have a huge amount of money.
The other thing with the digital downloads is the pricing is starting to become more, I wouldn't say sensible, for lack of a better word, because that was one issue. They had, even as recently as a couple of years ago, some of the games you could download via the Xbox store from the console were still 20, 30, 40 quid when the physical copy was available even brand new in stores for 10 to 20 pounds because it was an older title, and the pricing didn't necessarily add up, whereas now it's starting to become, I would say, more competitive. Maybe that's a better word than sensible.
I think is also apt. I mean, I was talking to a customer today and I'd read the running order at this point, so it was in my mind anyway about pricing, and we were talking about digital games, and he said I'd never buy a digital game on my console. And I said, well, why not? He said, oh, price. I think it's ridiculous they charge £60. I said, have you never bought one when they did a sale? Like, when they did, I forget what game it was, but they did a game for £1.74 over Christmas on the Xbox 360. It was a really good game. It may have been Tomb Raider, or it was something of that quality.
There was a whole bunch of games that were dirt cheap for a period there.
And I said, that's when, even if you don't necessarily like games at the big prices, buy them when they're at the small price. Send the message to Microsoft that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And the sales will happen more often. And they are happening more often. They did the Ultimate Game sale recently where they knocked 90% off some games. If you buy them then, whether you like the idea of not being able to trade it in, if you've only paid £3, the cost of buying it and trading in and the loss ratio is less than what you actually paid for the digital version. So fair enough, you can't trade it in, but you haven't lost that tenner difference between the physical and the trade-in. And he was like, no, I still don't want to do it. Like, well, you can't. Choosing not to buy something that's £70 while other people will is not the same as saying, well, I won't buy it at £70, but I would buy it if it's a £5. And that's the point, is that people will then go, actually, maybe our pricing could change. Maybe if we did a promo. Instead of going free, Games of Gold, why don't we do it for a £5? Because people probably would pay that.
Because you've also struck on something else there, which has been an issue for the industry. So if the downloads are more reasonably priced, people are going to go, I haven't even got to leave the house.
No.
£30, I've got the game, I haven't got to leave the house.
Yeah.
I can't trade it in, but, well, I'll take that on the chin, kind of thing. Or it's an impulse buy. If it's a reasonable price, the chances of somebody doing it on impulse are much higher.
Well, look at the Steam sale. How many people have bought a game on a Steam sale because it was £1 and they were like, oh,
Humble bundles.
That used to be a tenner, now it's only £1. That must be a really good game, and they never play it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because the developers had that money, and Steam have had their cut, and you've got a game, which is good. And that's the thing, and it's also with the Xbox One. Any game I actually install, I don't have to try and load a disc for half an hour, which is a real appeal to me.
Strangely enough.
Now that I'm stuck with this one for a little bit longer, I did say if Game do a promo on Xbox Ones for £200, I will just trade mine in.
Yeah,
Or
it's fine.
buy one and then take it back and go, that just didn't work at all. What is wrong? I don't even want it anymore. Take it. And then they send it back to Microsoft. But yeah, this is the big issue we've got, is that the digital pricing is being fairer, but people are still, and maybe reasonably, quite cautious of it. Like, I don't want, if they start buying them at £40, will they think, well, we can probably squeeze a bit more?
Yeah.
And I think if it did, like you say, if it comes down to sort of £30 for a digital copy, £40 for a physical, it would make a lot of people say, we'll sod the physical version. And I work in an industry where we make money from the physical, but we could make money from the digital.
Yeah.
It's not about putting people out of jobs. It's not about ruining an industry. It's about an industry evolving.
Yeah.
If most of the games that you buy, I think most of them are assembled in Poland for Europe, and their specialists generally are China. I mean, you're not really going to bankrupt the Chinese manufacturing. They'll soon have something else to make. They'll be making Kim Kardashian Talk-A-Lot dolls or something. Or maybe not even the official ones, like Poundland version, Jim Kardashian. Just a man with a massive arse and a little dress on. But this is it. It's
In a coffin.
The evolution of gaming is always moving forward. And we've seen huge stuff. I talked last week about the maturity of the gamers themselves, but also the products. I mean, you look at what we're buying, what we're getting into. Virtual reality headsets, motion tracking,
Valiant
cameras,
Hearts.
and I mean, it's got to a point now where there is a value there, but we just need to, I think, maybe relax a little bit about what our value is on a physical product, because it's nice to have something that's like a physical commodity. Everybody likes that, but there's a reason why some people buy shares over having a lump of gold under their bed. Like, you can sometimes have something that will still do the job it does. You don't necessarily have to have something that you can then sell later on at a massive loss. It's like, there will always be those people that want it. But all I want is, I want to be able to do, like the Wolfenstein New Order Special Edition. They did that didn't include the game. So you could buy all the Special Edition content and the model of the Panzerhound.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to get the game on any console or PC, or you wanted a digital version, it didn't matter, because you could then buy that separately. And however you chose to consume the game, you still got your physical contents. And I like that.
That's a good idea.
I mean, you look at the Destiny edition, how much of that really needed to be in that box? There's a little book, and then the rest is postcards and DLC. And it's a massive box, really, for what it is.
Big box.
And in there's not anything massive in terms of physical content.
Yeah.
So they could have done that Arms and Arms book. I could have had a code where I could have requested a physical copy if I wanted one, but if not, had a PDF to read on my iPad or via smart glass.
So you could even have the disc sat within the art book. So the art book opens and you've got
So
a little
digipack.
plastic, kind of thing. It just clips into the,
they
the
did that
inside cover.
for.
They've done that for other
I'm
games.
going to say the special edition of Sleeping Dogs.
Shaq Fu.
No. Don't look at the shelf of Shaq. I'm trying to see if I've got the Sleeping Dogs one next to me here. I should have. My whole...
You've got sound effects while you rustle through your
That's
drawers.
my jester hat that you can hear from when I went to Strawberry Festival.
Rustling through my drawers.
I don't know where that's gone. But a special edition of Straw Dogs.
Special edition of Straw Bear, like
Sleeping
360.
Dogs was in a digipack. The special edition of Tomb Raider was also the same. So you just get an art book, and then on the other side you've got the digipack. It's a good idea. I would like to see more of that, because I do like an art book.
And it minimises packaging and saves the planet.
So it does. I mean, Gone Girl DVD and Blu-ray came in cardboard packaging. So much so that even when they included the Amazing Amy book with the Blu-ray, it was still smaller than the Blu-ray case. It was amazing. So yeah, I like I say, I like physical goodies especially as a fan. I mean, I've got the big special edition of Batman ordered, not the Batmobile edition, because that was game exclusive. So I said, off you. I wanted it so much, but it was about £200. So this way, I get to be morally correct and financially better off, which is good actually. So yeah, I've got the big statue edition, which comes with a Gotham Knight.
I think we mentioned it.
Yeah. And if they turn around tomorrow and said you can supplement for a £5 reduction, you don't get the physical disc, but it will send you a download code, absolutely would do that. Even just for a £5 off. I don't care. I want I would like all of my games to come with the option of just being a digital download. Like, give me that option. Do it so that I put the disc in and it will burn the disc in half and you can never use it again.
Yeah.
And I can just then never...
With
have to
your
put a disc in.
Xbox One, that might happen.
I know. It is one of those things that makes me think maybe the state of my console has changed my appeal of digital downloads. But it kind of certainly does
Are you
point
suggesting
out...
this is a ruse by Ubisoft? Or...
No, what I'm saying is, if Microsoft tomorrow said we'll do a console without the disc drive, I would absolutely buy it. Because I like being able to go Xbox, go to Sleeping Dogs, and the game just loads. I mean, right now I could probably go Xbox on,
Yeah,
and
well,
nothing will happen because I think I've powered it right down. But that voice command thing, I mean, obviously that requires having to connect. But for me, being able to just switch to a game, just go to a menu and there's the game straight away.
Yeah.
And a lot of the games have instant recovery if you're in the last couple of apps you used. It's a great feature. And the digital products allow it to be even quicker. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Definitely all for it. So, yeah, it's interesting. Now, Mark's Minute. We've been doing this for a few weeks.
Yes.
He's getting quite frustrated.
Oh.
Because not many people are tweeting him.
Oh.
But we think we might have figured out why. Because Twitter is not a good place for conversation.
No.
Or for social commentary. So we've listened to feedback.
Even though their tagline was "join the conversation"
We've
for a long time.
Well, it's I suppose a conversation, yes, but actually giving a worded response to a question, no. Like if it was, "What do you think about this? Do you really want to know?" Yes, I'd like to know. Well, I guess it all starts back in 1982. Oh, sounds interesting.
And I've had
That's
these
good.
debate conversations with people, mainly about hockey, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because no argument, especially about British ice hockey, is ever 140 characters.
No.
It is consistently ridiculous.
I mean, to the point that people use Twitlonger, and then that's a real ball ache to try and then find the support.
And it kind of
really
defeats the point of what Twitter was supposed to be about.
So, obviously, he likes it if people would respond and answer his questions. So what we've decided we're going to do, and we're going to talk to him about this later, so he doesn't have a clue, but by the time
we're going to tell Mark.
We're going to tell him. Basically, he's our video man. So we figured it would work well if he did a little video introducing what this week's Mark's Minute is going to be.
Yep.
Pose the question he wants to pose, and then we'll put that into a post, which will allow the listeners to get involved.
On the blog, lolacourse.co.uk.
Exactly. And then we will play the full Mark's Minute with your responses and our feedback as well. And I think that will solve it brilliantly. Yeah. So this week we won't have a Mark's Minute because that basically would negate the whole point of this routine. He hasn't sent us one over in advance, so we couldn't do much about it. And to be honest, we're recording quite early this week. Sometimes we record on a Thursday. So that gives him a bit of time to put it together. So next week we'll be back, hopefully, with video content already up there by the weekend. That's the aim.
Well, we value any feedback, don't we, Nathan?
We
by email,
certainly do.
Whether people want to share the blogs we put up or share Mark's videos, obviously.
Sharing is our
Dalek's got
favourite
his
thing.
YouTube channel, Sex Talks About Apps, which you can also find a link to from the blog, from the menu at the top.
Exactly.
So any comments, any shares, any emails, I mean, they can email us. We are thelolacourse@gmail.com.
That's the one.
Yeah, it's great. It's great when people get in touch because we've got a great little community starting to slowly build.
We want to keep building a community because we were talking about this earlier, that when we first got involved in this, we came from very different backgrounds. You came from a show that had
ice hockey, and that was
very little in terms of feedback.
Yeah.
Whereas I was...
And it was quite a niche subject for the British audience, but
And I came from a show that had a very big community, it was a very vocal community. So I've come into it thinking, well, that'd be quite nice to have that. And you've come into it going, well, that's a bit weird, I'm not used to that. So between us, we'd be quite happy if we just have a bit. And we have. I mean, we put out a question about favourite apps this week.
We'll talk about that shortly.
Yeah, we've had some response to that.
Yep.
I responded to a hashtag on Twitter about tweet your lock screen. Got more response than anything we've ever asked. So screw the lot of you. That's all we need to do in the future. So our next feature will be whatever's trending. Send us. And what's brilliant about it is it gives us an insight into the people. Like most of them have got Marvel related lock screens. It shows that our listeners have got remarkable taste. Not a single DC lock screen. So that was good. So in the absence of having Mark's Minute this week, we're going to jump straight into Dalek, who's going to talk about some apps, which he does. He's got 12 of them. For episode 11, he's done 12 apps.
Wow.
So it might be like the 12 apps of Christmas, but without Christmas.
Or it might just be his maths isn't that strong.
About 290 days until Christmas. Right.
You can work that out while Dalek tells us.
I'll work that out while Dalek tells us all about some apps. So we'll join you after this.
This is Dalek Sex, and the voice of sex is coming in your ears.
Yeah. Huh. Come on. He's got opinion and posted suggestion, but never reveals his name. Read by someone, taken as a good one, but nobody knows who wrote it. Few lies of the sentence lie, anonymity annoying me all the time. It's like a 2-channel where people just throw their anger, forget about those foul actions.
Hello everyone, Dalek Sex speaking. It's the Apps special this week, so here's the Sex Talks about Apps top 12 games currently doing the rounds. King of Thieves. Zepto Labs have cut the rope. Fame combines Ninjump with the asynchronous PvP model of Clash of Clans to create an evil, addictive monster. An excellent game, badly broken and in serious need of rebalancing, but the developer is solid and the game is only a month old, so let's see where this one goes. One Finger Death Punch. If you miss Irem's 1988 Kung Fu master, known in some circles as Spartan X, and loosely based on Bruce Lee's Game of Death, and you want to see it mixed with the burly brawl from Matrix Reloaded, you cannot afford not to have this game in your life. It is simply glorious. Jelly Jump. From Ketchup, this is a beautiful endless jumper with satisfying physics and a savagely addictive edge. No tilt controls necessary. You are jelly, you must jump. One touch control, say sorry and wipe it off. Very nice. Glow Burst. If you want a maths puzzle version of Fruit Ninja with the visuals of Geometry Wars, look no further. This one will do your head in at all levels. I'd say it was shiny, but we're not talking about Firefly at the moment, so that's alright then. Five Nights at Freddy's 3. It's getting some flack for being less scary and more repetitive than its prequels, but it's also more complex, more involved, darker and more personal. It's great as a line drawn under the plot, and the Android version is clean and zippy, more than worth its £3 asking price. Sniper Assassin. Horrendously tasteless, utterly cynical, grindy and brainless. Sniper Elite 3 this certainly isn't, and I'm going to hell both as a reviewer and as a human being for being utterly, utterly addicted to it. Drop 7. Well, look at that, Zynga's still going. Somehow, somewhere, somebody gave Zynga enough money to make a new game. And they did. And it's not shit. There you go, Matrick, I said it. You have turned Pincus's zombie horde into something that can make actual games. Don't think this means you're off the hook for what Cafe World did to me. Bounce. Again by Ketchup. It's a shit endless jumper. All endless jumpers are shit, but this one reminds me of Loco Roco on the PSP. That's gotta be a good thing, hasn't it? Yes, it has. So there's some balls for you. Balls. The Crystal Maze. Minigames, Richard O'Brien, Mumsy, Enduring Image, Aztec Zone, Mouth Organs, Start the Fans Please, Mumsy, The Time Warp, Locked In, Got the Crystal, Fort Boyard. Oh no, wait, that was shit, wasn't it? Gold tokens, silver tokens, Caravan Holiday as a prize. Yes, that's it. Stupendo. Remember Circus Charlie, 1984, Konami? Remember the trapeze level? Imagine that reimagined as a physics game in which you get tased in the bollocks over and over and over and over and over. You'll get very angry with it. You won't care, but just be warned. Very angry. Daddy Longlegs. You'll get angry at this one too. Did you see my YouTube video where I played it? If so, I'm sorry I blew out your speakers with my obscenities. You'll have to take a thing with long legs and make it walk as if it were on stilts, and it's more difficult than it sounds. High-Rise Heroes. Bookworm meets an anime towering inferno. It's got robots, monkeys, science, an annoying bishy secondary character, jokes about legal waivers, and a wise old black janitor. It's the total package. The free campaign is huge to the point that it's probably worth paying for the extra content, whether you end up playing it or not. And finally, Snotling Fling. You may have blacklisted EA for strip mining the Warhammer IP and firing everyone connected, or you might just want to catapult snots at solid walls, shout wah and make jokes about humans. If so, there's Snotling Fling right here for you. And that's all from me. You can follow me at The Voice of Sex, and you can find my YouTube at Sex Talks About Apps. Please subscribe. I'm off to sniff Tim Schafer's socks. Nighty-night.
That's a nice reference to Tim Schafer there.
Ooh.
Did you see about him and his sock?
I didn't.
He was at GDC in America.
Yep.
And he was doing a little talk. And he said he was told before he went on and advised by a lot of people not to mention Gamergate. And then he brought up a little sock puppet. Who then took the mickey out of Gamergaters. And he went, I do not agree with what the sock is saying. And it was a brilliantly conceived thing of baiting them, but at the same time having a third party there just to say, not me. And he did the whole Not My Shield thing, which that was the biggest bit of controversy, because Not My Shield isn't simply a Gamergate thing. Some people have used it in other contexts. And so they were like, he's being racist. He's being racist with a sock puppet. It's like, not really. What you're doing is you're trying to deflect his criticism by criticising him. But that was very good. So, yeah, some very good games in there.
Yeah.
I've played a few of them. King of Thieves is very, very good.
I've heard good things.
He's right. It does need some repairs, but the concept of it is very good. It's a bit of a mixture of Super Meat Boy and Clash of Clans as well, in the fact that you build a dungeon and then other people have to try and get through it and steal your treasure, which is a good concept for a game. Yeah. I like it. So there's a lot of recommendations there. Do pop by his YouTube channel, particularly the Daddy Long Legs video, which is hilarious. As annoyed as he gets, it's very funny. But also tweet him. If you've played in those, like them or whatever.
Yep.
I'm sure he'd appreciate the feedback. So, what's this? Identifying with a character, Rob.
Yeah. Well, I was perusing the tech section of the Guardian website.
The Guardian?
The Guardian.
You read the Guardian?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because there isn't a 10-article limit on the website for starters per month. Thank you, Daily Telegraph. But, perusing the tech section of the website, and obviously they have certain bits that are promoted, including some of the opinion pieces.
Yep.
And they'll just promote a different one. Each time you load the page, it will be effectively a different piece that's been promoted. But one that caught my eye was entitled Video Game Characters. The more real they get, the less we like them.
Okay.
By a lady called Naomi Alderman.
Okay.
Now, her particular point focused on Guybrush Threepwood.
Off of Monkey Island.
Off of Monkey Island. And obviously as games have, technology's improved rather than games, but obviously games have moved with technology, graphics have got better, more high res, and Guybrush has become more real, shall we say, in a sense. More detailed is maybe the better way to put it. I think what stemmed from that was kind of her querying whether that was a good thing, and then it obviously also spirals into whether we need characters to look or be a certain way for us to relate to or empathise with them. Now, it wasn't a phenomenally well written or lengthy or in-depth piece. It was a very short piece, but
it was,
the question it's trying to ask did, make me think.
Yeah, I mean, I misread her genuine opinion to start with. So I thought what she was trying to say was that it's easier to identify with a character that's not very realistic. And the more realistic it gets, the harder it is to identify. And we talked about this before, about how Lara Croft in the most recent Tomb Raider reboot was less sexualised than ever, more detailed than ever, and as such, it was a lot easier to empathise with. And I would say I enjoyed that Tomb Raider more because Lara was more believable. Certainly more than I did on the PS1.
Yeah.
When she was a triangular-titted woman with drawn-on eyebrows.
And hot pants.
Yeah, it did nothing for me. What her actual point was that when she was a kid playing games, the vagueness of the character allowed her to overlay herself.
Yes.
And it was more...
Your imagination rounds things out.
And I think that shows a certain naivety, though, for what makes a good game. Because I don't want always to be imagining the protagonist as myself. I sometimes say I'm playing The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I want it to be Joel and Ellie. I don't want to think of myself now. I might overlay some of my morality into decision making, but ultimately, I think the strength of games as a storytelling medium is believable characters. And I think sometimes when you play a game and they look and they emote correctly, that certainly helps.
Yeah,
because you need that belief that the character that you're on screen is in some sort of anguish or is elated, and you can't do that with some pixels. You can do some very cool things with pixels.
Yeah,
and early games certainly weren't impaired by the limited range of design choices and colour palette and everything else. I mean, Dizzy was one of my favourite games of all time, and essentially it's a fucking egg with boxing gloves on.
Yes.
And
it's not essentially, it is.
And on screen, it was an egg with boxing gloves on. And I think it was famous that it was never supposed to be, but it was an animation they made just to show how animation made, and then they just to use that in a game. And essentially, that game was limited by the technology of a time, but transcended it and was a believable, lovable character. If you made that 3D, which they did kind of pitch they were going to do at one point, it wouldn't be as nice. But that's because it would have lost what the games were.
Yeah.
Not that it was a 3D character, but the fact that suddenly this 2D screen-by-screen game had been replaced with some Spyro the Dragon clone. And that's kind of the issue I have, is taking those older... So like Miner Willy from Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy.
Yep.
I mean, that's basically a top hat and a man.
Yep.
And you don't need any more than that. It's fine. The amount of movie tie-ins I played on the Spectrum, where they really had to try quite hard to make a movie character look like it. And we talked about Sam Fox Strip Poker. Did we talk about that on the show?
We did.
Yeah, I mean, that was... Oh, it wasn't sexy at all. But the point was, you could vaguely imagine what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes, she may have had square nipples. Yes, her face might look like she was drawn by a 5-year-old with a lump of charcoal on a sheep that was passing by. But it didn't matter, because in your head there was enough of imagination to make that real.
Yeah.
Now we're at a point where we don't necessarily have to overlay our imagination, but I don't think that's a bad thing, because it now means that we can let the imagination of the artist and the concept creators and everything to give us it back. So rather than kind of... It's like that, you've got quite boring food, but if you put it on the plate nicely, it'll make you think it tastes better. Well,
because that plays into how the human brain works.
Yeah. How about you just
senses.
have nice food?
Yeah.
You don't need to then dress it up. You don't need to have like value cornflakes mushed together to make yourself a corn dog. Buy a corn dog.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're at a point now where we don't have to make do. And I think it's also made pixel artists more inventive and more creative, because some of them do go very lo-fi. I mean, Thomas Was Alone, for all of its storytelling flair, looks
very simple,
as basic as it can look, and that's kind of the point. But even then, it's got some nice little lighting and shading techniques and stuff in there. And I think her point is, she seems to me to be very much the old school gamer. And maybe that's me overlaying by knowing her name, seeing her profile picture, and hearing she's talking about the Monkey Island games, which isn't a massive franchise now, so it's somebody who was obviously playing a lot longer. Why not have some other reference to other game? From my point of view, I can only put it as maybe she's a casual gamer who played a lot of point-and-click adventures in the 90s and bemoans the fact that the newer versions don't have that charm. Yeah. That's fine.
I mean, she did point out Florence in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And she said, it's nice to see sort of a high-res recreation of Florence during that period.
Yeah.
But I think it has what you've said, really. Times have changed for the industry. The technology has improved. What they can do visually has improved tremendously. And I think part of it is the mental cues they can give us as gamers now have changed, because, as you mentioned, Dizzy, which is very simplistic, and the whole thing was very simplistic because that was the way the technology basically tied their hands. You're laughing at
I'm
my...
trying to work out what that connection was on your iPhone, iPad, MacBook. Your MacBook power lead was.
So for all technology's improvements, you can't figure out the little wire clip.
Well, I couldn't see from this side, but it was.
But anyway.
Carry on.
So yeah, technology's improved. So the way they can lay out a game, present it, that's the word I'm looking for. They can present a game. You look at something like Fallout, where they present that, they frame the story, but then they give you a tremendous amount of choices within it. So you can play it as you would play it. So you can put your own morality into the character.
Exactly, yeah.
Or you can take it off a complete tangent and be a complete dick, or a massively goody two-shoes, to the point where you go, no, I won't steal anything, even though it's a survival game and I will get eaten by a giant crab. I won't steal anything because it's naughty. And you have all these options, and Mass Effect was the same. You could make Shepard look like this or that. You could be male, you could be female, you could be you could be a dick. You could be.
This is the bit that kind of I think she'd skirted over in her article because it doesn't fit her argument.
Yeah.
That she could quite easily make herself in a lot of games. Like there are a lot of games that allow you to do so.
Alternatively, she could make a character which is completely unlike herself.
Yeah.
The option is there to play it however you want to. In a sense.
I mean, and this is the thing, like the silent protagonist in the first person shooter, Gordon Freeman, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, you look down, you don't see his hands, you don't see his body. If you drive a vehicle, the steering wheel's moving, but there's nothing attached to the steering wheel. There's no arms there, and there was no voice. So you were playing that game as you.
Yeah.
That is how it was. When you were playing Duke Nukem 3D, you certainly were not you. You were Duke because you were hearing him talking. And that's kind of the difference. And I think that's been a staple of gaming for a long time. There is a quote in there about Scott McCloud, who wrote a book called Understanding Comics, that justifies it by saying, the more cartoon your face, the more people could be said to describe. Which he then says, high-resolution characters are likely to be more alien. I don't agree. I think comic book simplicity is different to video game simplicity. Because comic books don't necessarily have to be simple. I mean, you look at the Grant Morrison Batman books; they're far from it. You know, the level of detail in 2000 AD comics is certainly not simple. And okay, maybe it's not appealing to a mass. Yeah, but that's not the point. Who that is aimed at clearly. And if you look at games like Skylanders, where they are very cheerful and very bright, they're still very stylized. Yeah, you still identify that as a character. It just makes it more acceptable. So I think, again, that's one where she's using it very clearly as an argument for her point.
More of a nostalgia trip than anything.
Yeah, at the point that quote really suggests that more it's something that's appealing will be appealing. Which, well, that's obvious. Yes, well done there, you. But no, don't get me wrong, I like it. I very often, and I think I've talked about it on the show before, if I'm playing a game, I usually design a character around my significant other. When I played XCOM, named all the characters after me and my children and friends, because then if someone gets killed, I genuinely feel bad about it. Apart from when my eldest, we dressed him in a bright pink suit and sent him out first, because it was hilarious, because he was watching me basically send him out as a bullet shield. But yeah, I think it's interesting. So, but you know, if you're listening and you've got a different opinion, get involved. Yep. Send us a comment, because we'll have this post on the site with the podcast. If you want, if you've got comments about anything we've discussed, I've messaged by Twitter. Or if you want to go into a bit more depth, chuck a comment on the article. Sure. So, Arsehole of the Week.
Yes. A new regular feature.
Yeah. Now I was going to take this off of the running order this week because I hadn't really come across anybody. In my real life, I've come across a lot of them. Yeah. But that's not what this is about. No. This is about gaming culture, movies, comics. Who the fuck decided that there should be a live-action Dumbo?
Our arsehole of the week.
That's it. This came out, the news was announced while we were chatting earlier, that Tim Burton is going to be directing a live-action remake of Dumbo. Yep. Because, why not, eh? They've
not, like, no,
the live action,
fathom why the world needs
the live action Alice in Wonderland worked because there is a kind of a
live action element to Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, there's a real world and then there's a fantastical. I'd say in Dumbo, you've got the ringmaster, the boy that torments the elephant and that gets hit,
What you're saying is you've got peripheral characters.
And they're the humans.
Yeah.
And then everything else is an animal. But the animals are so stylised. Like there's crows wearing clothes. And
the mouse
an elephant
wears
with
a tunic, red tunic.
and a hat, like a ringmaster outfit. And you've got an elephant who's got a little hat and massive ears, which is not going to look anatomically accurate, because it doesn't.
It's not supposed to, that was the point.
But then surely the live action thing, the whole point of live action is to make things look more kind of like this could be real.
It's grounded in realism.
And while Dumbo is set in a kind of stylised America, no, I don't bloody want it. Like there are dozens of Disney films I'd love to see made into live action. Bambi I'd like to see made into live action. That could be really interesting. It could be like Homeward Bound, but with actual animals getting shot. Me with my goose thing, this is quite exciting. But Dumbo, it's just, I don't know, there's so much of it that just doesn't seem like right. I mean, don't get me wrong, if anybody can do it, Tim Burton can do it, although he's been way off form in the last few years. You only have to look at, say, Big Fish. I don't know if you've seen Big Fish. The scenes in the circus he's done there. I mean, he can do it. And although he didn't direct Big Top Pee-wee, but Pee-wee's Big Adventure that kind of led to it, again, started that visual style that works. But God, that's just... It is one of their early films. They've done Cinderella.
Yep.
They've done Sleeping Beauty with Maleficent.
Yep.
Snow White has been done by Snow White and the Hunts in the Star Hands, but it wasn't Disney themselves.
Different style.
There's been a live action version of that, so that's another one of their early ones.
And I think
Dumbo, I think, was their
been
fifth live action animated. So
a live action Snow White before, was it Christine Creek, who was in Smallville with Lana?
yes,
Lana Lang in Smallville?
yeah.
I'm sure she was in Snow White. I think
There
possibly
was.
Sigourney Weaver as
I
the Queen.
think maybe that was a Sky mini-series I think they did.
Maybe.
I can't remember. But they've been live action.
Yeah.
Because, there would be. But there hasn't been... It's like Dumbo was a Disney creation as such. And as that, I mean, it just doesn't lend itself very well. But I would like to be proved wrong. I think it's also, I do really like Dumbo. It is one of my favourite Disney films. So I just don't... But no, even on a technical level, I don't see why it needs to... It doesn't need to happen. It'll be stupid. And whoever commissioned it is an arsehole. And if I find out it's something I really like, then I will be conflicted about it.
Yeah.
But they're still an arsehole. And on that note, we're going to go.
Yes.
And I'm going to stew on this now until next week. And I'm going to find out who they are and send them a dick in a box. Not a dick in a box. That's just an
Escalate quickly.
shit in a box is what I meant. Actually, my local, Simon King, local councillor.
I know the name.
He does a lot with local parks.
Right.
He suggested at local council this week that they should follow a thing they did, I think in Holland, where volunteers followed dog owners around the park. And if they didn't clear up,
Emma told me about this.
Yeah,
yes.
they'd post the dog shit back to the owner.
Yes.
Which is, I think, a very funny, a very reasonable thing to do.
Perfectly reasonable.
But then there was a brilliant letter in the local paper. It's like, I don't think they thought this through. What if a child was to open that parcel? Well, the child shouldn't be opening the post that isn't for them. That could have been a letter bomb or anthrax. And then that would also have been bad.
We get a lot
Serves them
of
right.
letter bombs in Finland.
You get more than you'd expect since Postman Gav's been on the route. But then you got that, and then it was like, and what if it wasn't their dog at all? What if it went to the wrong house? Like, well, if it went to the wrong house and it had somebody else's name on it, you'd probably go, no, that's not mine. I'll return this because it's not my parcel. If it's a sort of parcel that gets a parcel that's for somebody else and opens it, you deserve a pile of dog shit. Because the person that got my 2 DVD set of Old Boy and decided to keep it for themselves, even though it clearly wasn't for them, I wish they'd got some dog shit in the post. I think I should have probably just posted them some anyway, put my name on it, they'd have opened it immediately. So yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Postman Gav,
All
you got
right.
in touch with us. Because we've been talking about
course.
mobile gaming.
Mobile gaming.
And games on the
yeah.
go. And we asked our listenership
We
what
did.
their
I almost forgot.
must-have game on the go is. Gav was one of the people to reply. And he simply said, if I have 3G, WWE Supercard or Marvel Puzzle Quest. No 3G, Ticket to Ride. Stupid 16GB iPhone doesn't have much space. Sad face.
See, now that's the other interesting thing about... I was thinking about this on mobile gaming. Like, my iPad is struggling because it's got very limited...
And I'm in the same boat with mine.
Yeah, now, this is... Yeah, I've got a 16 gig iPad. I think it's also because as these games get more sophisticated, they do take up a lot more space.
Certainly do.
And updates don't go like nowhere. So I've got games that are 2 gig in size. And I think I've got whole Xbox games that are not 2 gig. It's been crazy. But I've got a message here from Welshbeck on Twitter. He said he plays Duet if he has his headphones with him.
Yep.
I have no idea what that is. I'm guessing it's a singing game.
I hope so. I've got images of him on the bus now, singing with Whitney Houston. Obviously, Whitney's on the phone, because she's dead in real life, on the phone,
Wow.
and there's him
You say that.
being the guy she wanted to dance with. He is the somebody.
Yeah.
And we also have one from Go Williams, who's nominated 2 dots, 3s, Adventure Capitalist, and that damnable Crossy Road, as he's put it.
Adventure Capitalist is very good. If you haven't gone across it, have a look at it. It's very good.
I need to play Valiant Hearts first.
You do. You
because
do need to
my
play that.
iPhone is also running out of space, so I'm going to get rid of Valiant. Well, not get rid of, but I'm going to play through Valiant Hearts, and obviously I can swiftly move that one away and move on to the next.
Yeah. And
game of choice.
and Crossy Roads is also very much should be on everybody's device, if not for the fact that it is quite embarrassing to sort of be beaten.
That was Ger's follow-up tweet. Mainly Crossy Road. Was too embarrassed the first time. He's honest. I'll give him that.
It is good. But no, thank you for everybody who got in touch. I mean, we did only put this out kind of an hour and a half, 2 hours before we started recording. So it's really cool that you got in touch. We will try and get that out next week a little bit earlier. So if you want to get involved, you can do. Of course, you can drop by the website and chuck thoughts onto articles that are on there or share them around. If you see stuff on Twitter and you think it's good, retweet it, because that really makes a big difference.
Certainly does.
We've been looking at figures for the website. It's been quite interesting because in 2011, 2012, we posted over the course of the year about 500 articles a year, and we had less views per article than we're getting now. So clearly we've got now people who are no quality, now that we've got some proper writers involved. It's not just me posting pictures of tins of beans that I bought. And that's good. So we'd like that. So if you share around, it means that the people that put time in, mostly Rob, because he puts a lot of time into them, they get seen, and that's why we write them. It's not to make any money or create some sort of business empire, because we don't need it.
Just as you mentioned, we'll start putting little intros to Mark's Minute.
Yeah,
Mark
that'll be on there.
Basically, put the question out. If you want to get involved, comment on the piece, and then you can put your 2 cents in. Obviously, as you've just shown, we enjoy our listener or community interaction. So lollicourse.co.uk. The links to Dalek's YouTube channels there as well, and the menu at the top as one that says YouTube, which has got Sex Talks About Apps, Mark's channel, and our We Are the Lollicourse one, which hopefully we can start using a little bit more as well, just in general. And there's a couple of little
crossed, there's something planned. For
exactly,
that
there's a few bits planned, so all that's there as well. And as Nathan said, if you like it, please share it, because I'd rather people shared the work than just inconsequential of the bits, whatever bullshit.
But while sharing,
share it.
also share the show itself.
Definitely.
Send out links, tell your friends about it. If somebody says, "Oh, I've got a long car journey," suggest that they could listen to our show. Obviously not if they're driving towards where we live, because we don't want trouble. But if they're going away from us, that's very good. That could be ideal. Obviously, if you haven't rated us on iTunes, now would be the perfect time, because we haven't had one this week.
We haven't.
And it's getting to that point where we might drop out a new noteworthy if we don't get something. So you could help us. If you rate us and review us on iTunes, that would be brilliant. If you do, you basically make yourself a little bit more awesome.
It's true.
It's scientifically... I know a scientist, and he watched somebody actually do one. And while they did it, they grew a little bit of a tail, which is awesome. Yeah. If you don't want a tail, I think you do get whatever you want in life. It's like a power will manifest itself based on what you like.
I don't wish to speculate, but everybody who has reviewed us has got a little bit of a beard.
Yeah.
Mainly because of our beards are obviously so awesome, it now bleeds through the internet.
Including that kill switch bloke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Biggest beard I've ever seen.
She hides it well.
You can tweet us, as we mentioned repeatedly through the show, We Are the Lollicourse, with the letter R. But, sometimes important to stay on brand. You can message me at BounceWolf and H after second B.
Or you can message me at RobMcGregor35.
You can find Mark at XBLA Silicam, and Dalek, obviously, at The Voice of Sex, as he said on his bit earlier on. We're going to go off shortly because I've got to create some art this week because I've been asked to take part in an exhibition in Glasgow. And it's called Secret Arcade.
Right.
But shh, don't tell anyone.
It's
basically an art event that is creating fictional video games.
Okay.
So it's reviews for games that don't exist and posters for games that were never released. Not Half-Life 3. I mean, like,
Fallout
generally
4, Van Buren.
real things that people have gone and said, oh, wouldn't this would have been a perfect game in 1994. So I've got to put my thinking hat on and I'm going to write a review, and I might even go back to my old arty days. Because you'll see over there's a picture of a cat there.
There is a picture
Can you
of
see
a cat.
it? What's that cat saying, Rob?
Yay!
Yeah, that's painted by the artist who's curating the pieces. She made that for me over a decade ago. I was in a bad mood. She was talking to me at the time. She painted that. She popped it into a cylinder, posted it down to me, and 10 years later, I finally put it in a frame.
Oh.
And I sent her a picture of it, and she was very, very pleased to see it. So, yeah, that's the level of art I'm up against. It's let's paint a cat on a canvas. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about the game yet. I'm hoping to make an early 90s Mega Drive game.
Okay.
But I'm going to create a new console as well.
Yep.
So it'll be a parody version of Mega Drive. So if you think around that time, you've got characters like Earthworm Jim and Boogerman and
Streets of Rage.
Yeah, and Sparkster and all those kind of very cool platform. It's probably going to be a platform fighter type thing. It's going to be printed into a magazine or a zine because it's a fan one.
Yep.
And will be available on the night. If you're in the Glasgow area and you're interested, if you search for it online, Secret Arcade Glasgow, tickets are free. It's at the end of May, I believe. I was going to go, but then I found out the train would be a 6-hour each-way trip and £120. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the games night we had, the tabletop games night, 'cause we had that last week.
Yes.
But we're going to put that into a more rounded show. So we'll come back
Beautiful.
to that next week. So if you're listening, hoping, Gav, that I'll talk about you, we've talked about you, you big-nosed gonk. See you later, everybody.
Bye.